In this world, the moon is undergoing a mutation that will cause the temperature to rise above 100 degrees. The surface becomes so hot that power plants explode due to the heat. You can't walk outside for more than 20 seconds without fainting, and the asphalt is so hot that if you touch it, you melt. With the whole world unable to leave their homes, supplies have become the most valuable commodity. Our protagonist survived for 5 years with his girlfriend. However, as soon as his supplies began to run out, she sent a guy to kill him before everything was depleted. But now, 5 years back in time before it all started, he has the ability to stockpile food and resources. And in this life, he will accumulate 3 billion resources and vows to be the cruelest person to seek revenge on everyone. But at this moment, our protagonist is on the bus where people are discussing how Mount Fuji has experienced an earthquake that killed dozens of people, and now their city is also being evacuated. The girl in the tight pink dress says they had to leave so quickly that she couldn't even buy supplies. The guy beside her says all the supplies from the surrounding cities disappeared mysteriously, and the other guy with shaved hair says the same thing happened at Donman Lake in Chiangsaen City and also at the Dahunan warehouse. The girl is scared, saying all this must be worth billions. It's at this point that our protagonist from behind everyone says it's actually worth trillions. And the disappearance of so many supplies plus all these natural disasters shows that something is going on. It's good to be alert. The girl asks him if it's the end of the world, while the guy in the green shirt says he's excited. He can't wait for people to be treated equally. But our protagonist thinks that inequality will only increase. Even at the end of the world, there wasn't a day when life was equal. After all, he personally experienced it. In his past life, he was just an ordinary delivery guy, until suddenly the apocalypse began and heat waves hit the whole earth. The tectonic plates moved and creatures hidden in the core emerged to the surface. The whole world changed overnight, and in this new world, there was a new order. In a society of extreme scarcity, even simple supplies like instant noodles were worth millions, and a sausage was enough to buy any favor. In that world, everyone gave up on normality, and now, after everything that happened in his life, he was reborn a month before it all started. The girl in the pink dress clings to him and says she's kind of scared. Can he calm her down? But he leaves, saying there are more important things to do, leaving her puzzled. Outside the bus, he wonders. In an apocalypse, what's more important? Obviously, supplies and resources. In his past life, he spent all his time searching for them. But this time, he will prepare in advance. He works at this Walmart, and at the moment, the boss is saying he will have his salary reduced. He says it's okay and apologizes, remembering that in the first apocalypse, when everything started, the boss of this place took all the supplies and fled. So now, as compensation, he will take them for himself. He then opens the warehouse, and the system begins to detect all the nearby supplies and sends them to his spatial space. A huge area with a dimension of over 10,000 meters. With this ability, he has been stealing even water from lakes and taking all the supplies from cities that are going to be destroyed. After all, if instant noodles are worth so much, imagine real food. The best part is that time there is frozen, so it means the food stays perfect no matter how long it stays there. Finally, he will have something to eat. The system shows how many resources were acquired in this activation, and he feels that after taking so much, he's finally prepared. At this moment, 3 guys from work enter the completely empty warehouse and ask what happened. Our protagonist reveals that he took everything, and the boss says he has no idea how he did it, but orders the other 2 to get him. But the moment they approach, he takes a step back and mysteriously disappears into thin air. They stand there puzzled, wondering where he disappeared to, while he reappears outside. This is his second ability, Spatial Jump. Using his spatial power, he can teleport up to 3 meters away. With this, he can gather supplies much more easily and escape without a fuss. He tosses his uniform in the air, declaring the collection complete. Then he receives a message on his phone from the authorities warning that the Earth is undergoing strange movements and everyone should be cautious because a disaster could happen. But there's no need to panic. Our protagonist finds this curious since nothing has really started yet and they're already saying this. Does it mean they somehow know the future? At that moment, he receives a call from his girlfriend, Jang Seokyin. He sighs and answers, and she scolds him, asking how he have the nerve to put their house up for sale. Does he think she'll really stay with him if he sells the house? He needs to be more responsible as a man because even though she doesn't want the house, she's still a woman. And if he wants to prove to her that he's a real man, he should hand over the house to make her feel secure. Su-chen, our protagonist, asks if she has anything else to say. She says, what kind of attitude is this? If he hands over the house, she'll give him another chance. Just transfer the documents to her. But if he doesn't do that, don't even think about marrying her. But Su-chen hangs up without saying anything. He remembers that in the last 5 years of the apocalypse, he went out every day to hunt for supplies to feed her, and even took her to one of the safe zones. If it weren't for him, she would have starved in the first few days. But still, and he remembers a day when he returned home and was attacked from behind. All because he wasn't bringing in as many supplies, and they wanted to know if he was hiding something. After Su Chen was killed, they had fun next to his body. And Jiang Xiaoqun warned the guy on top of her that Su Chen died because he was a useless incompetent. And it's good for this guy to prove he's not so incompetent. Su Chen was devastated to have trusted such a person for so long. But in this life, Xiaoqun and that guy named Wang will pay the price. And they won't die easily. The pain he felt, they will feel 100 times more. He calms down and remembers that the things he needs now are not found in the market and can only be bought with money. But first, he needs to get that money. So he calls a guy named Liu and says he's selling his house at half price, but he wants the money now. In front of the real estate agency, Wang and Xiaoqun are waiting for him. When he appears, Xiaoqun scolds him for keeping her waiting for so long. But he ignores her and walks past. Wang asks who let him sell a house and that if he does anything like this again, he won't see the sun tomorrow. But at that moment, Su Chen, who has learned to fight after surviving, grabs him by the neck and throws him to the ground, saying he can do whatever he wants with his things. While Xiaoqun is scared by this and tries to stop him. But she receives a slap and falls to the ground in disbelief. On the ground, Wang is begging him to let go, saying he's almost suffocating, but Su Chen tells him not to worry since he won't die so easily. He then releases Wang, who is shocked on the ground, while Su Chen enters the real estate agency. At that moment, Xiaoqun threatens him, saying to seize this opportunity she's giving him. If he kneels down and apologizes, she'll consider his case. But if he doesn't do that, forget about marrying her. Su Chen looks back and stares at the two who run away in fear. Inside the real estate agency, the attendant offers him some water, saying they will buy his house now. What does he think? The realtor's plan is simple. Su Chen's house is worth $1 million, but now he's selling it for $700,000. All he needs to do is buy and sell to someone else, and he'll make a good profit. Su Chen agrees to sell, but he has to receive the full payment now. The guy agrees, saying they'll transfer everything, and by tomorrow morning, it'll all be sorted out. Su Chen obviously agrees because houses will lose all value as temperatures rise. Despite several disasters occurring, the city is still peaceful for now. Volcanoes, earthquakes, and tsunamis are all still far away. Walking down the street, he sees a poster advertising quick loans. He decides to go there with his house certificate. Upon arrival, he's shocked to see it's the older brother of the guy who just beat him up, knowing this guy will die in the jaws of a monster in the first few days. The guy says he can lend him $500,000. He just needs to leave the house certificate. Su Chen hands over the certificate, saying he wants another $100,000 and promises to win it all back at the casino in a week. The seller likes hearing this and thinks this kid must be one of those gamblers who would sell even their relatives if necessary. This way, he won't be able to pay, will keep the house, and he'll still have a lot of debt. With that, the guy agrees, and another $600,000 is transferred. Xiaoqun is angry along with Wang, saying he'll pay the price for this. As they were going to visit Wang's brother and Su Chen just came from there, they spot him. Wang wants to know what he's doing here, already grabbing his neck in fear, but they decide to follow him. Su Chen remembers that several buildings will collapse because of the tsunamis. But this hotel in the Green City has withstood all disasters until the end. He knows the presidential suite is well equipped and even has a pool. Maybe it's a good place to use as a base for a while. Even at the end of times, this place continued to have food for a long time. He is then greeted by the attendant Liu Xinru, who asks what she can do for him. Su Chen says he wants 1,000 tables for a banquet, startling her. She offers some table options, thinking this kid must be the son of someone very rich. He says he'll want the table that costs 10,000 each and will make a deposit of 500,000. When everything is settled, he'll make the rest of the payment. She is somewhat incredulous, but says to follow her to make the payment, thinking that even though this payment of his may not be much, someone who easily spends 500,000 surely has more to spend, so it's best to facilitate the process. Entering the room, she asks if he's getting married. He says yes, and all this is for a wedding, and he also wants the presidential suite. Sometime later, he's leaving the hotel all happy. He got over 10 million in food, spending 500,000 with the advance deposit. And it doesn't matter about the rest, since when the apocalypse begins, the ice blocks he'll have will be worth billions. Watching him leave, she thinks whoever marries him is a lucky girl. At that moment, Xiaoqun appears and asks what that person was doing. The attendant asks who she is, and she says she's Su Chen's girlfriend. The attendant then says her boyfriend ordered a banquet for over 1,000 people and paid 500,000. To have a boyfriend like him, she's really lucky. However, the attendant is looking and thinking this girl is at most a 7. But she has a good body. Why do rich guys always like women like this? Xiaoqian and Yang are shocked. A $10 million banquet. The attendant says it's the case and that maybe she hasn't realized, but many rich people do this. They get into relationships and hide all the money they have until the day of the wedding. Xiaoqian starts to believe this, and Wang thinks it's impossible for that loser to have so much money. However, the attendant shows that she received the transfer of 500,000. On the street, Wang is asking Xiaoqian, who is he going to invite to a 1,000-person banquet? Now Xiaoqian is confident, saying, "You really don't understand, do you? He's trying to introduce me to the circle of millionaires he knows. Only then will he reveal my identity." Wang is wanting to become a mountaineer and venture into the mountains, but she slaps him. Thinking that she has to create as many opportunities as possible to stay with that loser while imagining herself as a wealthy lady in a chair being pampered, her eyes sparkle. She never imagined this scenario. She'll definitely have to marry Su Chen the loser, and that's too good. Meanwhile, Su Chen is just tallying up what he's done. 700,000 for the house, plus 600,000 loan and 500,000 for the banquet. And now that his name is about to be tarnished, taking out a bunch more loans wouldn't be bad. So he installs all the banking apps on his phone and starts taking out a bunch more loans. After creating over 80 accounts, he managed to get another 970,000. Now he needs to buy a fireplace, ice-making machine, ice blocks, smokeless charcoal, and a few other things that aren't available in the markets. With the amount of money he has, buying online with fast delivery is easy. These items are essential for surviving the extreme cold and heat that will occur. He then orders 2,000 tons of smokeless charcoal and also calls an ice factory to make a reservation. As he's walking down the street, a girl calls out to him. She's a friend of Xiaoqian's and says Xiaoqian misses him. However, Su Chen knows this girl isn't up to any good and has always spoken ill of him to everyone. So he tells her, "Miss me. She must miss my house, right?" Lena looks at Xiaoqian and says Su Chen must be testing her, and she has to realize how sad he was with her behavior. Xiaoqian then rushes to Shen to apologize, feeling embarrassed, asking if he can accompany her for a walk. She's not feeling well and she was sad to have fought with him yesterday. But Su Chen ignores her and tells her to go for a walk alone. Xiaoqian is losing her temper, saying he's being too arrogant, and Lena says he's getting a taxi. It's good they follow him and see what he's up to. Meanwhile, Su Chen is arriving at the ice factory. The guy receives him, impressed that he's so young. Su Chen asks if the 2,000 tons of edible ice are ready, and the attendant says his factory isn't cheap, but guarantees extremely fast delivery. He just needs to pay a small portion, and they'll deliver everything. Su Chen then transfers 100,000 to him, and the seller informs that everything will be delivered in 3 days. Seeing the money, the attendant asks why he needs so much ice. Is he organizing an event? If he wants, they can cooperate in the future, and the price is negotiable. Su Chen says it's all for a charity event and leaves. At that moment, another taxi stops and the seller gets excited. But it's Xiaoqian wanting to know what that guy who just left was doing here. She's asking because he's her boyfriend. The seller is confused. Is this girl playing detective? What's going on here? He says he ordered 800,000 in ice. Both of them are shocked. 800,000 in ice. It's confirmed. He's a millionaire indeed to do something like that. Lena asks, did he tell you what he's going to do with so much ice? The seller thinks and remembers. He said he's going to donate it to charity. Both of them get scared without understanding the reason. The scene shifts to one of the city's fanciest restaurants. In his past life, he never enjoyed anything before everything was destroyed, and even having a coffee was a luxury. Looking at the menu, he sees it's all quite expensive. And on the last page, there's something for 17,000 with a question mark. He asks when it is, and the attendant says it's a special item made by their chef. Su Chen says it sounds good and places the order. He remembers that in his past lives, several creatures mutated. Some people thought it was some kind of biological change. But for him, it was just the creatures adapting to the new environment. At that moment, a girl with pink hair comes to deliver his order. She's marvelous and introduces herself as the chef of this restaurant. Su Chen recognizes her as Chef Duanya. During the apocalypse, she became known as the Hell's Chef. She had some kind of magical culinary ability that turned corpses into edible things. And in a world of scarcity, no one could resist temptation. However, the dishes made with mutated creatures always ended up killing people. Seeing his expression, she wonders, does he think that a beautiful girl like me would poison his food? And then she tells him that the dish she served is called Two-Faced Life. It's a meat dish with different preparations on each side. Su Chen tries it and says it's really worth the $17,000, while thinking it would be wonderful to have her at home to cook. Outside, Lena says she heard this restaurant is really expensive, and Xiaoqian says she can't wait to become a rich wife. So Su Chen decides to go to one of the city's most expensive bars, since soon it won't be possible. As soon as he sits down, a bunch of girls surround him asking what he wants to drink. He starts drinking with them, and when he looks to the side, there's a girl sitting there. Her friend says she was betrayed by her boyfriend and came here to have some fun. The girl says her boyfriend didn't even sleep with her and cheated on her with an old woman. Why do all men act like that? Su Chen says it's because men's instinct to reproduce is ingrained in their DNA and mind. Suddenly, she drinks her entire drink and asks if he's single. He's confused, but she approaches and asks if he's interested. At that moment, Xiaoqian and Lina enter the bar looking for him. And at a table in the corner, they see him with the 3 girls. Su Chen tells her they can go up to a room and she seems to agree, so the 2 rush off. It seems the desire between them is strong. Xiaoqian and Lina shout at him to stop, but the 2 run to the room, enter, and close the door. He apologizes to her for those 2, and the girl timidly says it's her first time. Su Chen feels awkward and flicks her forehead, saying she must be drunk to do something like that. He tells her not to leave the house for the next few days and to stock up on food. She says she understands. And then he says a girl like her shouldn't be in a place like this. With that, he closes the door and leaves, thinking it's a shame, but he won't be able to seize this opportunity. When he leaves the room, Xiaoqian and Lina are kicking all the doors. But he easily leaves, and the next day he receives all the delivery trucks, from the ice, charcoal, to the banquets. Wang is confused in the crowd, wondering why the hell Su Chen rented such a huge warehouse just to receive so much stuff, and now even Xiaoqian is getting confused, wondering what he's doing. At that moment, Lina points out that the banquet from the Green City Hotel has arrived. They're laying out the carpets and organizing all the tables beautifully. Could it be that suddenly a bunch of people will arrive and you will declare his love for her and propose? Xiaoqian is now all haughty, saying that even if he proposes, she'll still think about his case. They say they need to see his sincerity and decide to go talk to him. She then goes to Su Chen and asks why he's buying so much stuff. And Su Chen says he'll explain later, but can she help him organize everything? Xiaoqian is scared, thinking he's a jerk for making the girl who's about to become rich soon do such hard work. Lina says it must be some kind of test to see if she's qualified to become a rich girl, and at that, Xiaoqian changes her attitude and says she's not that weak type of woman. She knows how to be delicate but also knows how to work and starts carrying the boxes. But she's dying of anger, saying that when she becomes a rich woman, Su Chen will pay. At that moment, Lina comes to try to seduce him, saying she'll help carry the boxes. In her mind, she's sure that someone as rich as him won't have just one woman, right? As long as she shows a bit of what she has to offer, she might at least get to enjoy a little. Meanwhile, Su Chen is thinking he can't lose free labor like this. After all, with so much ice and tables to set up, they'll need some help. Some time passes and they finally finish everything. Xiaoqian is dripping with sweat and her legs are shaking. She says she's been carrying stuff since morning until now. As soon as she becomes his wife, she'll make sure to take all his money. Lina, lying on the ground, is also finished, saying that the damn guy really made them carry those heavy ice boxes. Xiaoqian says enough of this test, he has to propose to her right away and start the party or the guests will arrive. And Lina says he needs to hurry up because the food is getting cold. Meanwhile, Su Chen gives a good amount of extra money to all the delivery guys who thank him from the bottom of their hearts. At that moment, Xiaoqian comes and asks, Su Chen, don't you have something to tell me? Su Chen says yes, he thanks her for the help, but unfortunately, there's no payment for them, so they can leave now. Xiaoqian is shocked and tells him to stop joking. The guests are already arriving, not to mention there are 1,000 tables. Why doesn't he just reveal that he wants to marry her so they can have a good life? Su Chen looks back and says that's impossible for him. After all, he's already sold the house and accumulated a bunch of debts. They surely want to marry him. Lina says that doesn't make sense. How can someone with no money buy so much ice? Su Chen says he's only doing all this to help his very rich boss who wants to do a charity project. Xiaoqian loses her temper and anger and attacks him, saying he's been lying to her this whole time. He says he hasn't lied about anything, while she falls to the ground with a monstrous look, saying he's just a poor loser who can forget about marrying her. Su Chen says he's not interested at all, and she angrily leaves, saying he's a bastard and will regret it. When they both leave, he thinks they'll regret it once the apocalypse starts. He then closes the warehouse door to start storing everything in his space. With that, all preparations are finally ready. Back at the hotel with Wang Dehai, the guy he borrowed money from. Wang Hoyu pulls Xiaoqian aside and tells her not to pay attention to that loser Su Chen anymore. She should stick with him all the time anyway. She's gnashing her teeth, saying she's looking forward to his performance tonight. And Wang tells her not to worry, he'll ask his brother Dehai to deal with that guy for her. Travelkian thinks that Wang isn't really that bad after all, plus he has his influential brother. He's definitely better than that loser. Just then, Su-chen says she really throws herself at anyone. She's startled and asks what he's doing there, while Wang points at him and tells his brother it was this guy who hit him. DEHYDRATED says he didn't expect it to be this guy here, and Wang asks if he knows that guy. DEHYDRATED explains that this kid borrowed 600,000 from him and has to pay it back by tomorrow. Wang says that's perfect, they can settle these two things. While Xiaoqian is now happily saying she really got rid of a loser, especially one who owes money to DEHYDRATED's brother. Su-chen says it really is impossible to have a good meal in that place, and DEHYDRATED reminds him that the payment date is tomorrow. Why is he here in his hotel acting like everything's fine? Wang shouts at his brother not even to talk to this guy since he hit him. Shinru then appears and asks what's going on and if they can resolve it. DEHYDRATED says if she forces that kid to kneel down and apologize, they can let it slide for today. She then asks Su-chen what's going on. He says it's just some pests bothering him. DEHYDRATED then bangs on the table, saying he was only calm because his payment is due tomorrow. But from afar, a guy with a goatee asks what's going on and who let him cause trouble here. Su-chen and DEHYDRATED recognize this guy as Gao Kang. DEHYDRATED starts apologizing, asking what he's doing here. Gao Kang says he has important matters to discuss here today, and it's not for him to cause trouble. DEHYDRATED knows this guy is an entrepreneur, but is involved in various underworld activities, and he has a lot of people under his command, so it's really not good to go against him. And with that, he apologizes, saying he'll come back later. Su-chen recognizes this guy as Skull Crusher. And in the apocalypse, this guy became one of the most powerful forces, and he even had the boss of Hell working for him. Su-chen remembers that this hotel was one of the first places where some people with powers appeared, and maybe he got so strong because of something that will happen here. Gao Qiang stares at him while Su-chen thinks whatever opportunity arises in this hotel, he'll seize it. Sometime later, Gao Qiang is taking Duan Ya to meet someone named Mr. Sun, and she asks what this guy wants to discuss with her. Mr. Sun says he was looking forward to meeting the wonderful Miss Duan and then serves her a drink. Duan Ya realizes there's something wrong with that glass, clearly containing some kind of drug, while Su-chen remembers in his past life he hid in the basement with Xiaoqian and barely survived. He never expected that in this life he would kick her and she would still follow him here. But this is the perfect opportunity for revenge. Looking at the pool where the two brothers are going to refresh themselves, saying that tonight is strangely hot, but it's worth it since the girls will come in bikinis. They then appear and look at the moon, saying it's strangely bright. It's shining as much as the daytime sun. At that moment, Wang declares his love for her, while Su-chen in the room says their love is really about to explode. With the glass to the moon, he welcomes the apocalypse. The moon then begins to tremble and emit a red aura. Everyone outside feels something strange and their skin begins to burn. They all start running back to the hotel, saying something's wrong. Why is the moonlight burning so much? Inside the hotel, people are confused. It's night, but it's very bright. At that moment, the three of them are running, and everyone is scared. Their skin is already red. They are desperate, looking for somewhere to cool down. They then see an aquarium, run to it, knock it over, and jump in to relieve the pain. The hotel staff ask what's going on and where is DEHYDRATED's brother. At that moment, Wang remembers his brother, who appears at the door with his skin all burnt. In the room, Mr. Sun is asking Duan why she's not drinking, and Gao Qiang says they prepared a banquet, so why don't they go there now? But Mr. Sun tells him that in this city, nobody can refuse to drink the wine he pours into the glass. Duan gets angry, thinking Gao Qiang set her up. He's so eager to raise his social status that he handed her over to this Mr. Sun. She knows this Sun Debiao very well. He's a guy who's invincible in the city of Shanggu and has harmed many women. And today she became his target. She's absolutely sure there's something wrong with this wine, so she can't drink it. But what will she do? Right at that moment, the moon starts burning the three of them, and they close the curtain wondering what's happening. Mr. Sun says they better go down to understand better, and Duan feels relieved to get out of the situation. In the lobby, Shinru is trying to calm everyone down, saying the rescue teams must be coming. Gao Qiang asks one of his henchmen what's going on. He explains that suddenly the moon shone red and the temperature outside rose by over 70 degrees. In the news, they're saying that a lot of people have already been injured and burned. Mr. Sun calls the minister and asks them to send someone to pick him up. However, sometime later, he tells Gao Qiang that unfortunately it seems they're having some problems and won't be able to make it. Meanwhile, DEHYDRATED is in agony with his entire skin burned. People are trying to apply some burn ointments, but it's not enough. Not to mention he needs to be taken to a hospital, but with his high temperature outside, it will be impossible. He says he'll call a friend to come pick him up. The friend answers the phone, saying it's in the middle of nowhere, but okay, he'll come. As soon as he leaves the garage, he sees it's too hot and gets confused. The heat is so intense that the tires burst, and gets out of the car, calls his friend to let him know he'll be delayed, and runs away. However, the sole of his shoe melts and he slips and falls to the ground. Looking sideways, he sees another person lying there, already a dry corpse. He gets scared and tries to get up without realizing that half of his face is already on the asphalt. Everyone in the hotel is startled when he screams on the phone. While all this is happening, our protagonist is in his room with controlled temperature. He's sleeping soundly in bed, and government announcements are already being made. Due to the intense heat emitted by the moon, temperatures have risen by over 75 degrees, with the ground reaching over 100. The event has already resulted in hundreds of casualties. Please stay indoors to avoid skin and respiratory burns. At that moment, one of the power plants explodes due to excess heat, cutting off some communications. DEHYDRATED says he lost contact with his friends. While everyone is in the last room left in the hotel, Shavuxian and Lena are complaining that they don't want to stay in a room full of men. But at that moment, the power goes out. And with that, the air conditioning also stops working and everyone starts taking off their shirts, dying of heat. Shavuxian remembers that Suchen's room has a pool. Meanwhile, our protagonist is swimming peacefully. He already knew the power would go out because of the explosion in the power plants. And that's also why he chose a room specifically with a pool, in addition to vertical air conditioners and giant batteries to ensure the temperature. But he's also missing some ice here. He changes, sits on the sofa, thinking it's very nice now. He's hungry, so he sets up a banquet on the table. As it's the first day of the apocalypse, he needs a small breakfast, while wondering when that Gokshan will have the chance to gain powers. Someone knocks on the door, saying they know he's in there. Our protagonist knows that with the power to teleport and the preparations he made, he doesn't need to worry. So to cause anger and envy, he decides to open the room. As soon as the door begins to open, a cold breeze comes out and everyone feels an indescribable relief, wondering, why does it seem so nice in there and why does he have air conditioning? Suchen asks if they need anything. Wang points out to everyone that he has ice, a pool, food, and electricity. Lina and Xiaoqian start shouting at him, asking how he dares to let them burn outside all day while he's living in luxury. He better leave that room now. DEHYDRATED tells him the time to pay back everything he owed has come, so he better hand over that room. But the moment he steps into the room, he takes a shot in the stomach. DEHYDRATED is shocked when he sees the wound, and Suchen warns that if he takes another step, he'll die. Everyone is trembling now. Does he really have a gun? DEHYDRATED is outraged, asking where he got that. But another shot is heard in the room, and everyone is scared when DEHYDRATED falls to the ground, now with a wound in his leg. Suchen points outside, saying whoever wants to die can stay there, and he'll give them 3 seconds. Whoever is in his line of sight will go to the next life. Meanwhile, Gao Chang is talking to Xinru, asking how is it possible for such a large hotel not to have any food. She apologizes, saying they recently had a banquet for over 1,000 people, and the ingredients and food were scheduled to arrive today. At this moment, Mr. Sun, pouring water over his body, commands her to bring all the water and food she has right away. Families start to become outraged by the water waste he's causing, and a war breaks out in the lobby. Just then, DEHYDRATED arrives with his injuries, and everyone warns that Suchen shot someone. Seeing the wound, Gao Chang wonders, is there someone with a gun in this place? Seems like there's a tough guy living upstairs. Xiaoqian then informs everyone that Suchen's room has electricity, air conditioning, and even a pool. People surround her, asking if she's not lying, if she's sure. She affirms they can believe her. He even has an ice cube and plenty of food. So everyone decides to go to his room. Meanwhile, Gao Chang sends one of his henchmen to take a look as well. Once again, he opens the door, asking what they want, and everyone feels the refreshing cool air touching their skin. It seems like paradise in there. The crowd outside pleads for him to be kind and take care of the elderly, stating that since it's a hotel emergency, he should share everything he has with everyone. The chubby little boy spots some fried chicken and jumps to grab it. However, he's stopped with a kick to the belly and is sent flying. Suchen warns the parents to take care of the kids or he'll have to do it for them. People are outraged, asking how he dares to hit a child. He's truly a murderer and doesn't deserve to stay in that room. Everyone starts to enter. However, at that moment, he shoots the guy in the back who falls to the ground. Suchen warns that he may be alone, but everyone there only has one life. He knows the situation seems dangerous, but at any moment, he can jump through the portal and disappear. Downstairs, Wang is furious. After his brother suffered 2 gunshot wounds, a crowd threw his body out because he was already dying and decomposing. Wine is saying they have to kill that damn Su Chen. Meanwhile, in Su Chen's room, Xiaoqian and Lina are sweating and dripping with heat as they're asking to come in, saying they're sure he wouldn't have the courage to shoot them, and that they love him very much and are sure he loves them. If he lets them stay there for a little while, they promise to join him in a 2-against-1 adventure all night long. Su Chen says that since they want to work together so eagerly, he'll let them in. They're all happy and disbelieving, but suddenly, Wang passes between them, hitting them, saying he'll kill him. When he's about to touch Su Chen, he takes a blow to the face, collides with the two, and everyone falls to the ground. Seeing Wang beaten in their arms, they're afraid to enter the room, and Su Chen says, "Just go away from here." They leave, and he says he's just playing for now, but if anyone tries anything, the artillery robot he has installed will sort everything out in seconds. Tanks are seen outside the hotel, and everyone believes it's the rescue team. They leave armed and wearing protective clothing. Upon entering the hotel, they ask if someone named Liu Xingguo is there. The guy introduces himself, and they then tell him to put on the insulation suit and come with them. Everyone asks to be rescued together. However, the soldier assures them to stay calm. The rescue operation will take place tonight at midnight in Silicon Valley Square. The residents celebrate, saying the government really hasn't abandoned them. Meanwhile, Mr. Sun says he'll pay $1 billion if they take him now. However, he's restrained by one of the soldiers who tells him not to interfere with the operation. Mr. Sun tells Gao Kang to do something, but clearly, with so much aimed at him, there's no way. At that moment, Xiaoqian grabs one of the soldiers and says there's a killer living upstairs, and Lina says he's already killed a bunch of people and will soon finish everyone here. They need to save the people in the hotel. A soldier named Xiao Feng then says he'll take a look, and his friend tells him to be careful and not act impulsively. He takes his gun and starts climbing the stairs toward the room. While Xiaoqian is thinking this is the perfect situation. As soon as this guy kills Su Chen, she'll steal that room for herself. Xiao Feng cautiously walks down the hallway, observing every corner until he notices a camera looking at him. Suddenly, Su Chen opens the door and throws a flashbang. Before he could understand what's happening, it explodes in his face, blinding him. A sleeping gas falls at his feet, and when he crouches, Su Chen appears from behind and hits him on the head. Sometime later, he wakes up in the room, not understanding what's happening and why it's so cold. Su Chen tells him, "Your name is Luke Xiao Feng, and you're a captain of the Special Forces. Now that you're awake, let's talk." Xiao Feng looks around at the ice cubes and asks what's going on here, who he is, and where he got those grenades and weapons. Su Chen says he's just a regular guy who just graduated, and he got those weapons on a trip to the Middle East. Su Chen then asks if the government set the rescue points for tomorrow morning, and Xiao Feng is surprised by the fact that he already knows that information. Su Chen realizes it's all going to be the same as in the past life and warns Xiao Feng that even though the temperature is lower at midnight, people can't stand more than 10 minutes outside. The vast majority will die just trying to reach the rescue point. Xiao Feng says they have no choice since many people are starving in their homes who can't stand the heat anymore. Their only chance is to reach the rescue point. And since it's difficult to modify the vehicles, there's no time to rescue everyone indoors. At least if they put some blankets over their heads, maybe they can make it. Su Chen then suddenly puts his hand on his shoulder and points the gun. Xiao Feng asks him to calm down and says all he wants is to at least warn everyone to go with blankets. Su Chen then cuts the rope and says he's free since he respects the fact that he's saving lives. But it's good he doesn't try to come in here again. Xiao Feng asks if he's not afraid he'll come back with other people, but Su Chen shows him there's no need to be afraid. And Xiao Feng recognizes it right away. It's a camera with facial recognition and a built-in automatic machine gun. He wants to know where Su Chen got it, but Su Chen says he already said the Middle East. Now he better leave the room because he doesn't have time to deal with this anymore. Xiao Feng accepts and leaves back to the tank. Mr. Sun gets angry, thinking that not even the damn soldier could deal with the guy. He hits Gao Qian, saying he really can't do anything. Gao Qian's henchmen ask if they really won't do anything and will tolerate this guy. Gao Qian explains that after everyone is rescued, they'll still need the connections. It's dangerous to act now. At that moment, Su Chen appears and says, "In times of chaos, you're still dreaming of restoring order." The henchman gets angry, but Gao Qian tells him to calm down and asks why Su Chen came down. Su Chen then shows a bucket of ice, saying he came here to negotiate. The henchman tells Gao Qian it's good to kill that kid now and take everything he has in the room. But Su Chen points the gun, and the guy gives up the idea. Gao Qian then says they should talk business, and he hands over the edible ice to both of them. When they eat it, they're impressed with how delicious it is. Gao Qian now also wants to kill Su Chen to take everything he has. But first, they'll meet his demands. At that moment, Mr. Sun kicks him in the stomach, saying he's a damn liar for hiding those ice cubes and starts stepping on him, saying if he hides anything else, he'll die. Gao-kun is losing it, and Mr. Sun sees Do-won sitting, saying she's a very modest girl. Everyone is about to die of heat, and she hasn't even had the courage to take off her clothes. But he grabs her arm, saying he's tired of seeing her attitude, and he's in the mood to do certain things, so she better follow him. Do-won slaps him in the face, calling him a bastard. But suddenly, Sun rips her shirt, saying for her disobedience, he'll take advantage first, and then everyone will do what they want. She falls to the ground scared, and he says she's sweating a lot and he's just doing her a favor. Until Gao-qian appears behind him, saying enough of this. Sun turns to say something, but Gao-qian punches him in the neck with a closed hand, breaking it instantly. He falls to the ground dead, and Gao-qian says Su-chen is right. Indeed, this place is already chaos and people like him have to die with it, and then warns that this place is now under his control. Whoever doesn't want to obey will go to the rescue point or die here. Upstairs, Su-chen observes, saying that apparently his words were effective. Gao-qian was already the boss of this place in the past lives, so he just sped things up. And with that, the two of them have already been thrown out. Gao-qian then starts drinking the ice Su-chen gave him, while Xiaoqian and Lina beg for a little peace, saying they'll do whatever he wants. He throws it to them, saying it's okay. He'll give them some, but they better obey any demand. His henchman asks if they're not going to the rescue point, and Gao-qian says it's too far. It's not certain they'll survive. The henchman asks why he wants these women if they're running out of resources. Gao-qian says it's all part of a plan to deal with Su-chen. At midnight, Lina and Xiaoqian try to leave, covering themselves with blankets, but the henchman comes and takes everything off them. Xiaoqian asks what he thinks he's doing, but the henchman warns that now that they've taken the ice, they'll have to stay with him for a while. Those who decided not to obey Gao-qian because he didn't provide supplies are trying to reach the rescue point. But even though it's midnight, the ground is much hotter than they imagined. They're trying to protect their feet with a piece of wood, but it makes it difficult to walk, and one of them stumbles. Upon contact with the ground, their hand and face melt, leaving the survivor behind to die. Meanwhile, DeHay's body, which was burning on the ground until now, wakes up with red eyes. From the balcony, Su-chen observes everything, remembering that in the past life, he almost died on this walk. Xiaoqian and Lina say they can do whatever he wants, but why don't they at least go to the room? The henchman says they're being too shy, there's no need to try to hide. But suddenly the glass shatters, and the two chubby guys who were burned come running after everyone. Wang thinks they're zombies and asks if they'll turn too if they're bitten. Gao-qian says they need to figure it out, then grabs him by the neck and throws him to the two creatures. Wang's back is burned just by making contact with the creatures, and Su-chen appears with a blade, telling everyone to get out of the way. The henchman can't believe he wants to deal with these monsters, and Gao-qian is eager, thinking that as soon as Su-chen kills the two, he'll kill him and take everything from him. Su-chen knows that bodies exposed to heat turn into zombies, but they don't share any virus. You could say they're more like drought demons. The difference is that these demons retain some memories from their past life. Su-chen stands still, and Mr. Sun passes by him and goes towards Gao-qian. That's because he was killed by him. But Wang DeHe was killed by Su-chen and attacks him. However, seeing this situation, he's sure that the chance for Gao-qian to awaken some powers by killing Mr. Sun. So if he goes in his direction and cuts off his chance, a purple crystal comes out of his body. And that's a kind of core that can evolve a human body. He grabs the crystal, jumps back, and pushes DeHy towards everyone. With that, he goes up the stairs and tells them to have fun. Gao-qian grabs the guy on the ground again and throws him towards the creature. Back in his room, Su-chen says these crystals are extremely rare. He puts it in a glass and drinks it since that's the absorption method. The body extracts the energy from the crystal and strengthens itself. His eyes turn red and he starts screaming while all his clothes burn. He falls on the ground on top of an ice block, while in the lobby, the drought demon has finished all their water. Now without anything to drink or eat, Lina wants to escape. But the henchman stops her, saying she's not going to run away. At that moment, Lina says they should use Xiaoqian. She was Su-chen's wife, and if they throw her at the door, it's certain he'll open it, and then they can try to steal something from him. The henchman says it's a great idea, and Xiaoqian says she'll help, but she wants to eat meat first. The henchman says there's no meat since the refrigerators have been off for days. Gao-qian looks at her and asks if she wants meat, then he has a solution. They restrain Lina, and he warns her that if she wants to, she'll have to do it. Xiaoqian is shocked, asking if he means they're going to eat her meat. While Lina is trembling, Xiaoqian is going towards her. Lina pleads, saying, "What are you doing? You're not going to do that, are you?" But Xiaoqian goes to her face and says she just betrayed her by talking about her being Su-chen's wife. Since she did that, she deserves it, and then strikes 3 times. Gao-qian and the henchman are even scared to see how she did that without hesitation. Xiaoqian is going crazy, saying that when she's full, she'll go up and drink Su Chen's blood. The henchman looks at Gao Qian and asks if they're really going to do that. Gao Qian says to call the boss Duan quickly, or else they'll dry up. Meanwhile, in the room, Su Chen is jumping around with his new body. Not only is he more resistant to heat, but he's also more agile and strong. At that moment, he sees Duan at the door. Standing at the entrance, she's thinking it's getting crazy down there. She doesn't have a chance of surviving if she stays there, so she has to try her luck and use what's left of her value to get something here. Right at that moment, Su Chen opens the door naked, and she gets scared. She screams and he apologizes, saying it was unintentional. He was excited about some news. In the room, he then tells her that even though he has resources, it's limited and decides they just met and he can't accept her just because she's beautiful, right? He remembers that in the past life, she was a very smart woman. Furthermore, she formed a cooperative relationship with Gao Qian. However, even though he had thought about having her around, the atmosphere feels strange now. Duan then tells him that she's not just a cook, she's also a doctor who has been working as a surgeon for 3 years. She's thinking that his room is extremely well equipped. Not only does it have electricity, but it also has ice and food. She needs to demonstrate her worth to stay here. On the sofa, Su Chen acknowledges that being a doctor is indeed a good proposition. However, as she knows, resources are extremely scarce, and it's uncertain if they'll survive until tomorrow. Feeling uncertain upon hearing this, she says that as long as he doesn't kick her out of the room, she'll do whatever he wants. Upon hearing this proposal, Su Chen immediately states that this is her new home. She feels embarrassed, thinking she said that a bit hastily and unintentionally. Su Chen warns her that her only choice is to behave. If he catches her planning something behind his back, their relationship will end. Duan assures him that she understands and will never doubt any of his methods or determination. Su Chen then suggests that she can demonstrate her determination by undressing. She feels embarrassed and asks if he wouldn't rather have a like on the video first, since the chapters are over. I will bring you more. If you enjoyed, activate the cheeky little bell and I'm out.